So here we go, Chapter 8, Section 1, Fight Against Terrorism. The first thing to talk about is September 11th attacks. Beautiful day outside, clear, just absolutely perfect. And then all of a sudden, you got all chaos breaking loose. Okay, the United States, prior to September 11th, 2001, has been subject to many terrorist activities, not necessarily here in America, but in interest around the world. You had the Marine barracks bombing in '83. We had U.S. coal in 2000. You had others in between. And then 1993 was the first World Trade Center attack. So we've had it before. On that morning, September 11th, 19 Arab terrorists hijacked 4 airplanes. 5 people, 5 terrorists per airplane, except for the 4th one that got crashed down in Pennsylvania. There was only 4 on that plane. Okay, their targets were the World Trade Centers, which they hit early, the Pentagon, which they hit, and then I think the 4th target was either the U.S. Capitol building or the White House itself. Obviously, they did not get to it, mostly because the passengers on board fought back, tried to get into the cockpit, and then either got in and crashed it themselves or the terrorists crashed it. Either way, plane never made it to its destination, which kind of the very first, we're talking about fighting back against terrorism, that would be the first example of it right there. Changed the way that we view things here in America, changed the path of President Bush's presidency, and really the direction of our country. Destroyed 2 obviously very symbolic buildings in New York City. Part of the Pentagon, like one section of the Pentagon, collapsed. A 75-foot hole in the building there on the west side collapsed down. 3,000 people dead, including 265 people in the planes and 343 New York City firefighters who went up the towers to rescue those who were trapped. Did a lot of destruction around the World Trade Center areas because it wasn't just those 2 buildings, there were smaller ones around it, and really tore up the whole 16-acre complex. The terrorists, come to find out after a little investigation, which they already had an idea who did it, Osama bin Laden and his group called Al-Qaeda were behind the attacks. They are an example of a global network, a worldwide interconnected group of extremist Islamic terrorists. Okay, they are loosely connected around the world. They use all things technology-wise, and they use them to further their cause. But they're highly, not a bunch of dumb guys who did this. They're highly intelligent people. Did a lot of planning. Took years to plan. Took years to collect data on, to practice, and they executed it obviously on September 11, 2001. The attacks against the Americans, not only here in America but around the world. You can see this map. You've already used this map. You've already made this map. Some of you. Number 6. Most of these. Sorry, let me start over. Most of these are attacks made by Islamic fundamentalists. One of them, however, for sure, was number 6 there, the Oklahoma City Federal Building getting bombed. And that was by a guy named Timothy McVeigh, who was an anti-government individual who disliked all things government and what they were doing and decided to blow up the federal building in Oklahoma City. Killed some kids, killed some others. That's called a domestic terrorist. Okay, 168 people died in the Oklahoma City bombing. Timothy McVeigh, the guy who did it, was killed in 2001. He was executed in 2001, and his co-conspirator Terry Nichols received life in prison for his role in those bombings. Until 2001, September 11, 2001, the Oklahoma City bombing was the worst terrorist attack to ever take place on the United States soil. Okay, so it was a very, very nasty event. 19 kids died as well. So it's happened here before. Okay, aftermath. How do we respond to these activities? The United States started a coalition. The coalition of the willing is what President Bush said. Those countries who were pledging their support to us, working with us, so we can go after uh, the individuals, the groups who are who believe in terrorist activities. Canada, China, Great Britain, Pakistan, Russia, as many others, pledged their support for us, for the United States, and their desire to help combat terrorism. They would either give troops, money, intelligence, whatever it may be, they were trying to help out. October 2001, we go into Afghanistan and start Operation Enduring Freedom and try to drive Al Qaeda and the group called the Taliban out of Afghanistan and find bin Laden. They never did. Obviously, it took a few years, but they did find them. The biggest issue, the biggest threat, especially nowadays, I mean, there's always a threat of bombings and threat of hijackings and things like that, kidnappings and beheadings. I think the big scare nowadays is what people fear is biological weapons getting in the hands of terrorists. Take the Ebola virus, which we've talked about a lot because it's the big 2014 outbreak. If a terrorist were to try to get that disease, infect himself with it, and then go to a crowded place like a subway system and stay there for days while he's showing symptoms, he had the opportunity to infect many people. And then those people would infect others accidentally, and then you have a huge pandemic breaking out. So biological weapons is a very big, a real possibility and a big threat that people are concerned about. Section 2, urban sprawl, growth without a plan. This happens sometimes in cities, suburbs become more numerous, and metropolitan areas grow, become larger and larger, and they become difficult to manage. If an area, a city doesn't plan well, and that city's population booms out of control, there's going to be all kinds of issues happening. That's called urban sprawl. Okay, outlying areas become more polluted. The land between them and the city fills up as well. You have tons of pollution issues. You have overcrowding issues. You have lack of jobs for some places. A lot of things can happen if urban sprawl happens and it's not previously thought about and there's a plan to help it happen. No planning, no good. Causes for urban sprawl. Usually places that allow these cities to grow without any restrictions and have no plans to contain it is the cause of it. Other factors include the use of automobiles. People can travel from their job to their house. The expressways that are being built help people do this. It allows them to get from one place to the other. All these things help enable urban sprawl to happen. The negative impact, the infrastructure of some places you don't have the ability to deal with that many people in an area. Roads and bridges need maintenance, and if it's not maintained, you have issues. But if it's too many people on it, it's hard to maintain those things. Air pollution is going to be a problem because there's so many cars on the road. Sources of water, like rivers and lakes and things, are going to become depleted because you have too many people getting there using the water. Okay, so urban sprawl can be a big issue. Solutions to it, think about it prior to. Develop a plan. If your city is going to grow, how are you going to house those people? How are you going to maintain your infrastructure? Things like that. That's urban sprawl. That's chapter 8. Hope you like it.